Boys, we just got done streaming for 6.5 hours, the longest stream I've ever done. And you read it right. Galactic Legends Ahsoka Tano is coming to the holotables. And I want to take a chance to speculate a little bit about who might be required and maybe which other characters we might be getting in addition to this. Now, we got the announcement that Night Trooper is coming to the game, so that's likely to be at least one requirement for Galactic Legend Ahsoka, but I don't think that's going to be the only requirement, obviously. And so I want to do a little bit of speculation and look at what I think might else be required. So let's pull this up, and first we're going to talk about the other versions of Ahsoka already in the game. Well, when we found this leak, we actually found this image as well. Ahsoka Tano Relic 9. Now, we don't know what this means for sure, but I think the easiest and most likely way to interpret that is that Ahsoka Tano is going to be required at Relic 9 for Galactic Legend Ahsoka. So I think we're talking about baby Ahsoka because her name in the game is Ahsoka Tano. I don't think we're talking about Fulcrum or Commander Ahsoka Tano. However, I could definitely see Fulcrum being required, and I could even see Cat being required. I hope not, because as you can see, I don't even have Cat unlocked yet, but I can see both of these characters being requirements. Now, Ahsoka is guaranteed, I think, because of that post. I think Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum is very likely, and Commander Ahsoka Tano, maybe not so much. And if they're going to be required, most likely it's going to be Relic 7, 8, or 9 that they're required at, which is a little unfortunate. However, all three of these characters are very good in the game, so I don't think having them at high relics is going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. Not that you really want to take Ahsoka Tano to Relic 9, but she is also a pilot, so having her ship leveled up even more might help with the Negotiator fleet. I don't know that it's really going to make all that much of a difference, but I think that's a requirement. We got to talk about Anakin. You can't talk about Ahsoka without talking about Anakin, and I think we have to have at least one Anakin be required. I think Vader is definitely going to be a requirement, and then I think either Jedi Knight Anakin or General Skywalker will be a requirement. General Skywalker as a requirement for another GL is challenging, I think, for sure. However, they did just release the gas lightspeed bundle, so more people are getting gas, so they might feel more comfortable with putting gas as a requirement. And when we're talking about the Anakin that trained Ahsoka, I mean, we're talking about General Skywalker. This is the version of Anakin we see in the Ahsoka TV show. When we see those flashbacks to the Clone Wars, it looks just like this version of Anakin. And it does not look like this version of Anakin. So I really think that if we get requirements of Anakin, I think it's going to be General Skywalker and Darth Vader. And I know that's probably not popular, not going to be all that exciting, but I think that's what we're going to get. Mandalorian and Bo-Katan. I think we're going to get at least one version of each of them. I really hope we don't have to have Bo-Katan Mandalore. I hope it's just regular Bo-Katan, and I hope it's just regular Mando, but it's likely going to be Beskar Armor Mando and Bo-Katan. I don't think they're going to make Bo-Katan Mandalore a requirement, because then you're adding 4 more Relic 7 requirements onto this GL. I don't think they want to do that. However, it's possible. But I think what's going to happen is going to be Beskar Mando, Bo-Katan, General Skywalker, Darth Vader, Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum. I don't think they're going to require Cat. I don't think they'll require Jedi Knight Anakin. I don't think they'll require original Mando, and I don't think they'll require Bo-Katan Mandalore. Again, this is all speculation, but I think these characters are pretty solid bets for characters that are going to be required. Next, let's talk about Sabine and Ezra. If they're not required at these versions, I think we're going to get new versions of these characters that are required. I think it's very likely that Sabine at least gets a version with lightsaber. Ezra, I think, also is very likely to get a version, but with Ahsoka, I think Sabine makes more sense to pair with her since she was her master. Don't get me started on that. But I think that's very likely. The rest of these characters I have down here, they are more of kind of speculation. Let me just put something down here so I can scroll this up a little bit more. I don't think Grievous is going to be a requirement. I'm just trying to get, so you can see these. I don't think these characters are going to be required, but these are some of the characters I thought might have some weight to them, some of them more than others. I'll say that right off the bat. Let's start actually down here with Plo Koon and Rex. I think these two are actually very likely. For those of you that don't know, Plo Koon is actually a mentor to Ahsoka, and I think that he's very likely to be a requirement for Ahsoka. I'd be a little surprised if he wasn't, honestly. Plus, he's kind of a nicher character in the game that not a lot of people have, and so I think aside from people that bought the most recent Lightspeed bundle, which if you think that Lightspeed bundle doesn't have any value, card in the top right to show you the actual calculation of the value of that pack. I think it's one of the best that's out there. Rex, one of the versions of Rex, either Captain Rex or Clone Rex. Honestly, you could even do both. I don't think they'll do Captain Rex because Captain Rex is so good and he's a shared requirement already. So I think more likely it'll be Clone Rex that's required, and especially because Clone Rex is really the person that Ahsoka built the relationship with more so than this version of Rex. I also think Cup would just be kind of a funny pick to put in, and CG has to have those like niche and things that people don't have geared up requirements, and I don't know a character that fits much better than Ahsoka does. If you think about the arc where Ahsoka got framed by Barriss, which we'll talk about that in a second, and was kind of on the run from the Jedi, there's multiple scenes where she's actually on Coruscant hiding from the Coruscant Underworld Police, and so I think that kind of fits, and I don't see any other character that would really fit in, and so I think that'd be kind of funny because 669 Cup, I'm kind of making a shot in the dark there, but I think that has some credibility to it. Asajj and Ahsoka have a kind of unique relationship. They're both kind of exiled from their groups at one point and kind of become unlikely comrades, and so I think Asajj is actually a pretty good pick for a requirement. General Kenobi, I don't think this is super likely because General Kenobi is already a requirement for JMK, so people already have him at R8, so it would just kind of be a free requirement, and I don't see CG giving us a lot of free requirements, but I still think it's possible that they require General Kenobi, since, again, Ahsoka was mentored by both Anakin and Kenobi at different times throughout the Clone Wars. Obviously, Anakin was her master, but you can't say Kenobi didn't also influence her a lot. Maul is another requirement that I think is very similar to the same vein as Cat, honestly, where it's like it would make sense, but I really hope they don't do it because I don't really want conquest units as requirements for GLs, but I could still see them maybe doing it. And honestly, I kind of feel like Maul is more likely than Cat, and maybe that's like controversial, but I just feel like they're not gonna do 3 different versions of Ahsoka that are required for the 4th version of Ahsoka. I feel like they're going to stick to these 2, so I feel like maybe including Maul is like a way for them to include something else. I could be totally wrong on that, and I hope that neither of them is required. Barriss is the one who betrayed Ahsoka and got her basically kicked out of the Jedi Order, so I think Barriss makes a lot of sense. She's not a requirement for anything else, so I think it makes just a ton of sense to have Barriss as a requirement. I think this one's another one like with Plo Koon and Rex that I think is very likely. And then I put Jedi Knight Luke in here. This is the one I am absolutely the least confident in, and I would actually be really surprised if this worked, or if this ended up happening, but we do see them interact in Mandalorian Season 2 and Book of Boba Fett, and so they do have interactions, and that's the version of Ahsoka I think that we're building up towards, so I think that is maybe a possibility. However, Jedi Knight Luke's already required for 2 other GLs. I really doubt they make him required for a 3rd. So I would say this is the one I have the absolute least confidence in. Now let's talk about characters that are not in the game yet that I think have a chance of coming to the game with Ahsoka, or as a requirement for Ahsoka in the next coming weeks. So first off, we have Night Trooper, and I'll throw some pictures up of these guys over here, but Night Trooper, he is just announced. Obviously, if they're announcing at the same time as Ahsoka, I think it's very, very, very likely that he is going to be a requirement. Another person that I think is going to get added to the game is Huyang. Huyang is the droid that helped train or helped teach Padawans how to build their lightsabers. I think he's very likely to get added to the game, was traveling with Ahsoka. I think he would make a ton of sense. I really, really hope we get Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati in the game. They are my favorite characters from Ahsoka. They really, Ray Stevenson, I think, carried the show. It is he's the reason I think that show was actually pretty good, honestly, and the moments that we got from the Clone Wars. And I know the show gets a lot of hate, but Baylan Skoll's character is absolutely fascinating. I want to see him in the game. I want to see more of him in the shows, and so The only reason I think we might not see him in the game yet is because of the fact that we haven't seen where his story's going fully. So it would just kind of set us up to get another version of him later on, which I don't know if they want to do that. But Baylan Skoll Shin Hati, I would love to see in the game. Aside from that, and the new versions of Sabine and Ezra, I think that makes up a pretty good chunk of characters that they can add with Ahsoka. So we have a new Sabine, new Ezra, Baylan Shin, Night Trooper, and Huyang. I think that's a pretty good list of characters that they can add. Now, I know some people may be saying Morgan Elsbeth or Thrawn getting added. I think that Thrawn is going to be the dark side counterpart to this version of Ahsoka. And the reason I think they did Ahsoka first is because Thrawn has more character development to do and was not in Ahsoka long enough to be accessible or to be different enough from the current Thrawn. And so they're clearly doing more with Thrawn, and I think they want to wait till they have completed some of that, or we've seen some of that, for her to be added to the game. Some other like kind of niche characters that maybe could be added would be like Enoch, but again, I think that's more leaning towards Thrawn. Same with Morgan Elsbeth, and same with those the Night Sister they're not grandmothers, I don't think, but the Night Sister mothers that were on Peridia in Ahsoka. So I think that that's a pretty good list with just what we have. I think a lot of those other requirements are going to be more Thrawn requirements, and so I think that that fits more into that. Even Baylan and Shin, you might be able to say, well, those are going to come later and be Thrawn requirements, but it's just because I want them in the game so bad that I really hope they come to the game. And obviously, I don't think they should work with Ahsoka, but I hope they work in part of the UFU team, or maybe even a part of their own team. Maybe they add I don't know, maybe they take like Visas Mar and make a good 3v3 team or something. I don't know. I would just love for them to have some cool synergies together. As far as characters that Ahsoka will work with, I think that the new Ezra, the new Sabine are kind of go-tos that will fit into her team. I think she's probably going to steal a couple of UFUs, would be my guess. Or maybe even scoundrels that she works with. I'm not 100% confident on that, but I really think that she's going to come with a new Sabine, a new Ezra. They're going to be staples in her team, kind of like how Padme has Master Qui-Gon and Padawan Obi-Wan. I think Ahsoka's going to have Sabine, Padawan Sabine, and Knight Ezra, I guess maybe you could call him. Another requirement, I guess, that I can mention too is the rest of the Phoenix. I think any of them could be required. I just didn't put them on here because I don't know which one's going to be required and which ones aren't. They're probably going to pull them out of their ass when they decide anyways. So anyways, I think I'm rambling a bit. I streamed for 6.5 hours today, so hopefully you can forgive that. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Subscribe, like the video, take care, and peace.